The Crypto Climate Accord, Greenwashing or Game Changer? Some cryptocurrency players are attempting to reduce cryptocurrency's carbon footprint through a self-regulation agreement, but critics say it diverts attention away from more effective government regulation. Not all of the news in what has been a banner year for cryptocurrencies, so far, will be positive. As the value of Bitcoin and other digital coins has risen since January, the toll they are taking on the planet has received far more attention. Well-known Bitcoin supporters have flocked to defend their favorite cryptocurrency. A report released last week, sponsored by Tesla Incorporated's Elon Musk, Square Incorporated's Jack Dorsey, and ARK's Cathie Wood, one of Wall Street's hottest investment pros, portrays Bitcoin as an ideal component of renewable energy projects involving solar, wind, and battery storage technology. Meanwhile, earlier this month, a coalition of crypto firms and organizations announced the Crypto Climate Accord, CCA, an industry-led pact in which signatories pledged to switch to renewable energy sources to power operations by 2025 and go completely net zero, eliminating all glasshouse gas emissions by 2040. However, in an age when previously unrepentant big polluters are suddenly discovering a green conscience, questions abound as to whether the agreement is a game changer or simply a greenwash of a growing problem. According to researchers at the University of Cambridge, Bitcoin mining, in which powerful computer rigs around the world race to verify transactions in the hope of winning new bitcoins, consumes as much electricity annually as the entire country of Argentina. Supporters of the agreement argue that the massive carbon footprint, rather than the growing public outcry over it, is motivating them to roll up their sleeves and get to work. We recognize that crypto does use a lot of energy, so let's make it 100% green. Energy Web Foundation Chief Commercial Officer Jesse Morris. CCA is led by three non-profit organizations: the Rocky Mountain Institute, which promotes sustainability, the Alliance for Innovative Regulation, which advocates for a fair financial system, and the Energy Web Foundation, which focuses on open-source technologies to accelerate the low-carbon transition. We recognize that crypto does use a lot of energy, so let's make it 100% green, said Jesse Morris, Chief Commercial Officer at Energy Web. Rather than a political handshake, Morris describes the agreement as a toolbox for action aimed at generating a critical mass of crypto firms in response to a decarbonization plan. If you are a Bitcoin miner building out applications, we want you, he said. However, critics argue that a self-regulatory agreement could obstruct more effective government policies aimed at reducing crypto emissions. Is there a stumbling block to effective regulation? The agreement has a slew of high-profile backers, including French electric utility Engie and billionaire former US presidential candidate Tom Steyer, as well as the entities behind the cryptocurrency XRP, also known as Ripple. Monica Long, the general manager of the RippleX payment platform, told us that her company intends to achieve carbon neutrality by 2030, in line with other members of the agreement. Ripple has an advantage in this regard. Bitcoin has such a large carbon footprint because it relies on a consensus known as proof of work, POW, to validate transactions and create and distribute new coins. The most competitive mining rigs, which race to verify transactions for the reward of new bitcoins, are frequently made up of thousands of computers working in unison and consuming massive amounts of energy. Ripple, on the other hand, does not reward mining activities with new coins. Instead, it validates account balances and transactions in the system using a less energy-intensive consensus protocol. Other, lesser-known cryptocurrencies use proof-of-stake, POS, a far less energy-intensive method of verifying transactions because mining power is determined by how many coins the miner currently owns, rather than how many computers are crunching numbers at the same time. To stop the climate disaster that Bitcoin is causing, governments need to ban power mining, says Pete Howson, environmental researcher at Northumbria University. We're bullish on crypto generally, Long said. But I really do believe it's going to be a multi-chain future. That means that the energy-sucking power isn't going away anytime soon. Given that approximately 60% of Bitcoin mining globally is powered by fossil fuels, and approximately 65% of mining is located in China, where coal-fired power does the majority of the heavy lifting, some observers believe the agreement could stymie more effective government-driven solutions to crypto's carbon problem. To stop the climate disaster that Bitcoin is causing, governments need to ban power mining, Pete Howson, an environmental researcher at Northumbria University, told us. The Crypto Climate Accord, by representing the interests of Bitcoin miners, puts the brakes on that sort of effective regulation. Given the magnitude of the problem, Howson believes that the relatively small-scale mining startups that have joined the CCA represent a drop in the ocean. Even if new Bitcoin mining ventures open up and commit using only leftover renewables, miners in other parts of the world, where renewable infrastructure doesn't exist, have to work harder, buying more servers and burning more fossil fuels, he added. We have to get it right. The CCA is in talks with Argo Blockchain, which went public on the London Stock Exchange in 2018. According to Argo CEO Peter Wall, the company first established mining facilities in Quebec using cheap hydropower. It's important for me as an individual, and as a company, not to be using fossil fuels, particularly coal, to mine Bitcoin, he said. If Bitcoin is the reserve asset of the future, it needs to be created with the power source of the future, clean energy. Argo plans to expand into the United States in early 2020, with a flagship 200-megawatt mining facility on 130 hectares, 320 acres, in Texas. The allure is nearby cheap wind power. Wall, whose company derives 90% of its revenue from Bitcoin, distinguishes between dirty, conventional Bitcoin and legitimately green Bitcoin. The agreement aims to do the same by creating an open-source accounting standard for measuring emissions. Consumers and investors vote with their wallets for companies that are responsible citizens, Dan Tolhurst, co-founder Griffin Digital Mining. However, measuring polluters may still prove difficult for an industry that is often shrouded in secrecy, particularly when it comes to traceability and verification. We need to get it right, to make sure mining operations are in line with other standards and avoid the appearance of greenwashing or astroturfing, said Wall. Griffin Digital Mining, which only uses low-cost, off-grid hydroelectric power from upstate New York for its operations, has also been in talks with CCA organizers about joining. Griffin, which bills itself as the first Bitcoin mining company committed to 100% renewables, hopes to demonstrate that there does not have to be a trade-off between financial success and environmental sustainability. These are the early days for crypto, Dan Tolhurst, Griffin's co-founder, told us. Consumers and investors vote with their wallets for companies that are responsible citizens.